All India Radio.
Regional News Unit of All India Radio Chennai presents an interaction with students of International Studies of Women's Christian College Chennai about India's presidency in G20. In conversation with them, our news editor S. Joy.
Welcome listeners to another episode of G20 series. Today we are going to talk about youth education and international affairs. We have with us in our studios the students of International Studies of Women's Christian College. So let's ask them what is their opinion on G20 and also the future of India after this. Welcome students to our program.
Thank you, ma'am.
It is so nice to have you all in our studios. G20 Education Working Group is to begin in Chennai on January 31st. In this global event, countries are going to discuss about school education, technical education, skill education and research also. All the G20 countries will be joining together and they will discuss on how to make use of this global platform and bring about a change in the outlook on education. I request the students to share their expectations on this.
My name is Aishwarya. Okay, as we know that the theme of G20 presidency that India has taken is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It also shows that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means one earth, one family, is a core part of India's value system. And this is something huge that we are representing in the global platform.
One world, one earth and one family. What a great concept. In this backdrop, the world has come together after the season of COVID. Developing countries and developed countries have come together to solve issues. India is serving as a bridge so that no one is left behind in education or in any kind of development. How is it going to benefit our country?
I'm Sally, and my opinion about the G20 summit and about how it can help after the post-COVID recovery. Many countries, especially India and Southeast Asian countries, had problems with high inflation, especially after the Ukraine and Russia war, where we had this energy crisis. And this summit can actually be a very good platform for India to put forth this problem and get more solutions to face this challenge with respect to economic slowdown, as well as getting assistance from many other international organizations which are also included in this summit.
India has been supplying medicines and food to the countries which were affected by COVID and which are affected by natural disasters now and then. We are having a global stage in that context, and with regard to food and trade, we are also trying to get a solution for the present crisis which is happening around the world. If it happens in one country, it also affects the world. We are all interconnected. So what do you think is the future of the countries with relation to trade, agriculture, and food production?
So adding to Sally's point, representation, I think we as Indian youth and as South Asian scholars, we need this representation in the global dynamic. I think G20 summit brings us closer as a region.
My name is Ananya. What's really cool about this summit as well is that we have made it youth-centric. And there's a lot that we can glean from India's priorities when it comes to this, because at the end of the day, we have the largest youth population in the world. And I know I'm speaking for myself slightly, but we're literally the beacon of the future. We're what is going to take the world forward. And when you look at a lot of the priorities that the G20 is having when it comes to representation, inclusivity, and all of that, it's really, really imperative that we put the youth at the forefront along with the global leaders so that we get a sort of more dynamic perspective on global challenges and the other things that are priority at this point.
Youth are the treasure of our country. It is a huge investment for growth. Given the opportunity in any related field, youth can display their talents and skills. As a young person, what is your expectation about the future of the country?
I'm Ojas, and youth having the power to make India even more better. We can start with the education system itself, giving more experience-based education, and the way we test our talents can also be changed, have take a diversion what we are currently doing, so that can add up to the growth of youth. And especially youth like these days are very much into the startup area, so where like that can also give importance to the economic growth as well.
Education and research are necessary to trigger development. India has become a hub for startups. In this context, how important it is to assess a person's capacity, especially students in the post-graduation and also students who are appearing for research work.
I would say like the way we test our talents, as like not just by written things, we can have practical tests a lot. So that can provide more experience to the students, and they'll get an idea about what they have inside their brain as well.
I think what the G20 can also help us in terms of what Ojas just said about practical learning is that it can allow us to learn from each other, all the member countries, because we have our strengths and we have our own weaknesses, especially when it comes to the education system itself, right? Considering that we have the European Union here and they can also learn from our rigor when it comes to education. It's a very good platform for us to bounce ideas off of each other and reform our education systems to cater better to what the students might need in the future.
So adding to what Ananya just said, I think we've already I think the European Union has matched the rigor of India with Rishi Sunak and his mathematical equations in the country. I think so we are already together in this. And learning from our practical knowledge, as she said, European Union has already started adapting to it. UK has already started implementing education plans. I think we are better off to a very great start already.
To bounce off your topic about SDGs, right? It's very, very important that we focus on our sustainable development goals and the fact that we have set very high expectations and standards for our 2030 goals and how to work towards them. G20 is an excellent way for us to make sure that all of us have other countries' plans also in mind, so that, like you said, right, at the end of the day, all of us are tied together in the global stage. No one country can act independently. No one country can make sure that, I can grow better than my neighbor, because at the end of the day, we need each other for us to grow. So the SDGs, which it already is like our top priority, which is good. I think that's pretty awesome.
My name is Susanna Esputuran. India's presidency is a great opportunity for India to voice the requirements and the priorities of the global south as a whole. So India is the only country among the G20 that can represent the South Asian region. And it's the largest democracy and has the greatest population in the South Asian region. And currently, South Asian region is not doing good. The future is very bleak for its economy, with Sri Lankan crisis going on, Pakistan's flood damages going on, Bangladesh's fuel prices hiking up, inflation at a high rate. So all of that included, I feel that it is India's responsibility to make sure that it can uplift the economy, everything of this area as a whole, so that we can all grow together, we can become a powerful area. Another point that came across my mind was, all this while we've been focusing so much on the developed nations, but right now this troika is all developing nations. It's Indonesia, India and Brazil, all of them developing. So that gives us more voice for the requirements of the developing nations as a whole.
Developing countries have to tackle many rising challenges in health apart from other issues. India had proved ahead in the world that it can provide solutions for health, and it was proved during COVID. How important is health for a developing country?
WHO has often been credited with acting either too quick or too late. And this emphasizes the need for a system which better translates global health in the global governance, and I think so G20 can be completely capable of it. The Joint Finance and Health Task Force, the JFHTF, has emerged as a major health platform which can become more transparent and help India be recognized as a global health government.
And I think with the G20 summit and again India taking the presidency over it, we in South Asia as well can help global health being governed more democratically, more transparently.
So this is Grishma. And adding to the point of Ria, health is an extremely important point for India, especially with its vaccine diplomacy gaining a higher end for India in a global stage. And like Susanna said, we have been facing a lot of challenges, and we have macroeconomic challenges, which includes very high inflation, and more and more countries reaching out World Trade Organization to get loans, and more than 50 are already in huge debt crisis and sustainability crisis. And there is also post-COVID recovery, like we have been talking about, and there is geopolitical tensions and a clear-cut division even in the G20 members about the Ukraine war and the opinions regarding Russia's partnership. India is an advocate of multilateralism, and also as someone who has always been a representative of tolerance and peace. So I think here we have been developing more, whether it is in medical field or technological field. So here India can be a great example who can learn from others and also be an example for a lot of the countries to develop and focus on.
We have our priorities set straight. Like so far we've seen through the discussion that we have a lot of things on our agenda that we want to work on, whether it comes to education or technological development or green energy and all of that. The world is not just humans but also a lot of other animals and the fauna and everything. And the earth at the end of the day is her own. To the G20 agenda that all of the member states need to look at is poverty alleviation, because we do have these schemes that we bring forward, and yes, it is touching the masses to a great extent. Scale with which these countries deal with poverty and the way which they deal with, which is unfortunate, is not enough. It maybe caters to 5%, maybe 10% if we're really pushing it, but right down to the base level, it's like, what is the security that they have? What are the measures, but means with which they are not thriving, they're just surviving. So if you're looking towards ensuring that development happens on a large scale, if you're looking towards development that happens on every single aspect, it's about time that we prioritize poverty alleviation to be something that we work towards actively rather than just bring it up at some press conference once in a while.
With this, we have come to the end of the first part of the program. We were listening to the students of International Studies from Women's Christian College, Chennai.
You were listening to the first part of Interaction with Students of Women's Christian College on G20.